Goofy goofballs are gonna be goofy. To expect more of a goofball than to be goofy is to expect too much. Which naturally brings me to Matt Walsh. Apparently, he reviewed Sonic 3. I went and saw it by myself on New Year's Eve, and I had a fun time. A lot of the fans are super happy with it. It was pretty good. So he comes up and puts a thumbnail up that says, "Kids deserve good movies." The title is what kills me. Look at this title. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie that broke me as a father. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 broke him as a father. Well, with a title that captivating, why wait?
When a man becomes a father, he's called upon to make sacrifices for his family. And often these will be small sacrifices. Sometimes they'll be larger, though, more significant. And on even rarer occasion, the duties of fatherhood will require him to make the kind of sacrifice that, up to that moment, he would have thought himself incapable of making. These are the moments when a man must become a hero, when he must lay his very life on the line. And this
Is it? Is it really? I don't know. He's acting like every father at some point in their lives have to, shove their child out of the way of a moving train.
may take many forms. Perhaps he's rushing into a burning building to rescue his child from the fire. Perhaps he...
Yeah, not every father's going to have to do that.
Has to pull his loved one away from the path of a speeding train because they've been...
Hey! I swear, I've not seen this. He's actually just pulling this right out of his
tied to the tracks by bandits or whatever. Or most harrowing of all, he may be compelled by his paternal obligations to go to a movie theater and watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
That's the worst thing. Like, your child could be tied to train tracks by bandits. Very circa silent film 1920s era analogy to throw out there. But I guess that's probably around the time when he thought life was good, so that's the example he went with. But no, the most harrowing thing you could do is go to the movie theater and watch Sonic 3 with your children. All right. I'm with you so far. Not with you, but I'm following.
Now, a man in that situation would, of course, much prefer to be engulfed in flames or hit by a speeding train, but that would be the coward's way out. He endures Sonic the Hedgehog 3 for the sake of his children, whom he loves. And over Christmas break...
Yeah, like Sonic 3 is the worst movie you could have to go see with your family. Like, that's as bad as it gets. Like, there's never been something worse.
That is precisely the situation that I found myself in. Now, for the record, I'll say I greatly enjoyed most of the time that I spent with my wife and kids these past 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun together. We played football. We played outside. We shot BB guns. We played card games and board games. I completely wrecked my whole family in Monopoly 2 nights in a row. Wasn't even close.
What a man. What a man to destroy your family in Monopoly, to go shooting BB guns.
We took the kids ice skating. I was ice skating. My wife and kids were left dumbstruck by my gracefulness and elegance on the ice. They didn't say that, but I know they were thinking it. These were all wonderful experiences, yet things took a rather distressing turn on the final Thursday of the break when my 8-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter asked me to take them to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And I did. God help me. God help me. I did. Now...
Like, this is the worst thing you'll ever have to go through as a father, is seeing Sonic 3. Get ready, dude. Wowie kazowie.
Before I offer my brief review of this thing that I hesitate to call a film, I must first acknowledge, in all fairness, I never saw Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's possible that one cannot fully appreciate the narrative complexities of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 without having seen the first 2 chapters in this epic Hedgehog saga. Maybe the other 2 movies are works of staggering artistic genius that would elevate the 3rd installment and lend it the sort of context necessary for me to have appreciated it and enjoyed it, instead of feeling like I was being waterboarded with high fructose corn syrup the whole time.
If you are not open to the idea of the movie being good, you are not likely to come out believing the movie to be good.
But I doubt it. I mean, this is the kind of movie where Jim Carrey plays two characters. One is the evil villain, and the other is the evil villain's evil grandfather in old age makeup. And the two break into an impromptu dance routine that makes no narrative sense but lasts approximately 87 minutes.
And it was fun. It was fun. Are you immune to fun?
It's the kind of movie where those same characters before the dance routine actually look directly into the camera and explain that they're being played by the same actor. I must assume, and I think assume safely, that there is nothing in the other two films that would make this one any less obnoxious or horrifically stupid. I'm not going to bother explaining the plot of this film in any detail.
Yeah, it's a meta joke. It is a fourth wall breaking joke. He's putting a lot on the table, and it's all terrible. And I'm here for it.
I wasn't tracking it that closely, to be honest. I was mostly fighting to stay awake. This is the kind of movie that bores you to the point of putting you to sleep, but also annoys you at the same time. It's kind of an odd combination to be both sleepy and deeply irritated simultaneously. As for the plot, I can only tell you that Sonic is the good hedgehog, which you may know. There's also an evil hedgehog voiced by Keanu Reeves, who, and I like Keanu Reeves, by the way, but like every other voice actor in this film and most voice actors in most children's films that have been made for the past 20 years.
Well, at least he likes Keanu Reeves. He got one thing right so far. I'll give Matt that.
He has no talent as a voice actor and doesn't understand how to act.
How dare you? How dare you? I take it back. He's wrong about everything.
With just your voice. But he's famous, so that's good enough, I suppose. So Sonic has to stop the evil hedgehog and his evil cohorts, the Jim Carrey dancing duo I mentioned earlier, from blowing up the world with a big laser. And this has been the evil plan of every evil villain in every blockbuster franchise film for the past 3 decades. It's a formula that this movie is not interested in deviating from. This is not the sort of movie that deviates from formulas. Now, if you're wondering why the evil hedgehog and the two Jim Carreys want to explode the world and murder 8 billion people in a cosmic blast that they will also die in, it's because the older Jim Carrey's granddaughter, I think, was killed, and now he wants to commit murder-suicide because life isn't worth living. Like, that's real. That's in the movie.
I guarantee there's a list of movies that Matt loves where the motivation of the villain is that they were wronged and thus Earth is not worth saving. That's what it is. I was wronged. Earth is not worth saving. He is painting it in different words to make the movie sound ridiculous. Now, it is ridiculous if you want to be a realist about it. It's about talking animals that run the speed of light. Like I said in my own little takeaway from this movie a couple videos back, shut your brain off.
He actually declares his suicidal intention as well. Now, if that seems like weirdly bleak and dark for a kid's movie where the characters bust out impromptu dance routines and randomly break the fourth wall and constantly speak in internet lingo from 2019, there's a lot of that, by the way. Just as one example, at one point, Jim Carrey says, "Damn you, autocorrect." If it seems weirdly bleak and dark for that kind of movie, it's because it is.
The movie's PG. Jaws was PG. In that movie, a 9-year-old boy is murdered on screen by a shark with blood going everywhere. That's pretty bleak. In Jaws, a fisherman's head falls out of the hull of a boat. But hey, PG. This movie is certainly not dark enough to merit a PG-13. Not by a long shot. But okay, let's keep going.
This is a movie, like so many kids' movies these days, that schizophrenically darts back and forth from being ironic to painfully self-serious to goofy to earnest and so on and so on. It doesn't try to smooth over these tonal transitions with good writing or performances. The writing is just terrible, and
Can you please provide some examples of movies that have done a better job at smoothing out these transitions in movies aimed at younger audiences? I understand the notion of the critique, but can you clarify on what would make it better? Provide some examples of what would make it better.
performances are atrocious across the board. Instead, it just flings it all against
What?
the wall, and the performances are atrocious across the board.
No. Everybody did what they were supposed to do. Really. Like all the actors did what they were supposed to do. I could be a little nitpicky about the fact that some of the actors may have seemed a little bit wonky here and there. Granted, they are talking to nobody on set. They're talking to nothing on set. They might have something on set to look at so that they have a proper eye line, but they are not doing a bad job. Now, I could tell you why I think he thinks they're doing a bad job. I'll get there.
Instead, it just flings it all against the wall haphazardly, because these are all bullet points that the movie studio knows it has to hit. Because this movie, again, like so many kids' movies these days, is not the fulfillment of anyone's creative vision. It is just the product of a corporate algorithm.
Incorrect. The director of the film, Jeff Fowler, worked on the CG for the original Shadow the Hedgehog game close to, if not 20 years ago. He circled back around from a project that got him into the industry in the first place to see this through, and he feels a genuine connection with this character. So no, I don't believe that. I don't believe you circle back to a project 2 decades later like that out of 100% sheer coincidence. I think that's a bit much. That's a bit much. I think Jeff has had a lot of fun making this movie. He directed 1, 2, and 3. And this movie does not feel like a corporate checklist. It was fun. It had a lot of payoff for folks who've been following the franchise for a long time. And this is clearly a review from someone who does not understand any of that.
It is loud and ugly and obnoxious and disjointed because nobody who made the film actually cared about making a good film.
What does any of this have to do with breaking you as a father? That's a pretty severe sentiment to put in your title. This movie broke me as a dad. And so far, it sounds like all it took to break you as a dad was what you perceive to be a corporate checklist. That's such a silly thing to lose your shit over.
And they have absolutely no respect for their audience. I mean, this movie could have been made by AI. We are at a point. If they start making movies with AI, we would not know the difference.
I think we would know the difference. As it stands right now, we would know the difference.
Because they've effectively been doing that for 20 years now. Now, you might respond here, as many people on Twitter did after I gave a very brief review of this film in a tweet on the site a few days ago. You might respond that, well, this movie isn't for me. It's for kids. Well, first of all...
it's for both. I think it's entertaining enough for adults, and it's entertaining for kids, but the payoff is definitely more for the adults because the game upon which this is largely based came out over 20 years ago.
Tell that to the other people in the theater with us. I can tell you that my kids were by far the youngest people in attendance. There were multiple groups of adults, just adults, no kids, whole groups of them who bought tickets to Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Yes. And good for them. What do you care? Why do you care about that? This is something they grew up with. At the end of a long school day, we came home, we did our homework, and when we finally got to unwind after spending, 8, 9, 10 hours of our day, this was a game we sat down to unwind with. It's going way over his head. Wowie kazowie.
Also, tell it to the multiple grown adults who got angry at me on Twitter for not liking the movie.
Because you don't get it. It's fine if you don't like the movie. I don't even care that you don't like the movie. But the things that you're singling out and picking out, you're just like totally missing what makes it what it is. But it has some meaningfulness to adults as well because, like I said, the source material upon which it was based was a part of our lives as we grew up. And looking back at that can help us kind of feel a little bit of that magic from that time in our lives. Is that so bad? Is that really so bad? Apparently it is.
The funny thing is that a lot of those same people say, well, it's not for you, it's for kids. Why are you getting so upset about it then? Why are you tearfully defending a movie that you claim is not for you?
Nobody's tearfully defending Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Nobody's crying at their keyboard while they're typing to you, Matt. That's not happening. Matt's probably never going to see this video. If you are watching this, Matt, chill out, dude.
In fact, one person told me that my negative comments had upset, and I'm repeating this phrase verbatim, had upset the, quote, Sonic community.
You don't want to do that.
Now, those are not kids who identify themselves as members of the Sonic community. My 8-year-old loves Sonic, but he's not on Twitter furiously defending the Sonic community.
I would probably consider myself part of the Sonic community. Now, I don't read the comics. I haven't seen all of the cartoons. I have not played all of the games. But Sonic is fun. I grew up on some of these games. Way back when, in like 1995, when we got our first Sega Genesis, our first game was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And it's a blast. It's still a blast. And in 2017, when Sega hired someone who used to make fan ports of Sega's official games, Sega hired him to come in and make a full 2D thing. When I bought that on day one, I was a kid again. I played that thing all day, because it made me feel some of that magic I felt when I just wanted to play a game after a full day of school. I wanted to relax. I wanted to unwind. And recapturing a bit of that magic is not a bad thing. And the idea that that has gone completely unregarded so far, 7 minutes and 57 seconds into this video, is kind of wild to me.
From its detractors. So I agree that these kinds of movies are for kids, but I am not the one who needs to be told that, okay? Second, and this is most important, and it shouldn't need to be explained, but really it does, and that's really my only point here.
He's really setting himself up for a whopper here.
It is possible to make a children's movie that, although it's for children, is still a good, high-quality piece of art.
Don't stop now.
I don't hate children's movies just because they're for children. Quite the opposite. As a father of 6, I've watched many...
6? Poor kids.
Many children's movies, okay? I've watched way more than the average person because I have so many kids. And I greatly appreciate the good ones. A few nights ago, just as an example, we watched the movie Iron Giant with my kids, and that's...
Yeah, that's a good movie. That was not a huge movie in my childhood growing up. It probably should have been. It was like in the right time, but I don't know. It just, we rented it once. We didn't buy it in our house, not for any particular reason. Let's say I watch The Iron Giant now and I'm like, it's okay. I'm not just going to turn around and on all the people who love that movie. Like, I can see why that movie is so meaningful to so many. Whereas you are completely failing to see why this movie or this franchise as a whole means anything to anyone.
That's an animated children's film. It's also well-written, beautifully illustrated, brilliantly performed, tonally consistent. It's funny and heartwarming, and at points it's sad, but it works all of that in a way that feels natural to the story.
Yeah, it still kind of sounds like he's talking about Sonic 3.
It's a children's film, and it's also a great film. One that I can watch and also enjoy. Because as it turns out, children's movies are not just for children. They're for parents too. Or at least they should be. Okay, if a kid's movie or kid's show is so grating and so dumb and so unpleasant that parents can't stand to be in the same room while it's on, that doesn't mean it's for kids.
You got to make up your mind, man. You've got to make up your mind. So earlier he complains that because Gerald Robotnik is making a murder-suicide pact with his grandson to blow up the Earth and destroy everything, including themselves, because Earth isn't redeemable if it can allow something as heinous as the death of his granddaughter to go unpunished. He cites that as a mature plot point, too mature for a kid's movie. But then he also wants a kid's movie to have mature enough points that the parents can appreciate it. But if you want a movie to be more mature, there are movies out there that are PG-13 just because of thematic elements. Maturity. Elements that are presented in a mature enough manner that a PG rating is not deemed appropriate. So do you want Sonic to be for kids? Do you want it to be for adults? Or you want it to be for both? I think it did a good job being for both. But your job is to be perpetually angry and forever dissatisfied. So you're never going to come out of this happy because that's not where the money is.
It isn't for kids. It isn't for anyone. It's just bad. And the fact that people say, well, of course it's bad, it's for kids, tells you everything you need to know about our culture.
I don't see a lot of people saying, well, of course it's bad, it's for kids. I don't doubt those people are out there, but that is not really the predominant popular opinion on this movie. The predominant popular opinion is, that was fun. And the opinion for people who are familiar with the source material is, that was really good. Better than I thought it was going to be. I'm really glad I saw that. There's nothing apocalyptic about this. And I certainly don't understand why this movie broke you as a father. Why would this break anybody as a father? There's so many... Oh my gosh. There are so many worse movies you could see. Far right-leaning, contrarian content creators constantly have to shit on whatever anybody likes in order to play nice with their audience.
They act like it's ridiculous to expect the content produced for kids to be high quality or to have any artistic merit whatsoever. But I tend to think exactly the opposite.
Say that again.
They act like it's ridiculous to expect the content produced for kids to be high quality or to have any artistic merit whatsoever. But I tend to think exactly the opposite.
This movie is about two characters on parallel paths who had opposite reactions to loss in their lives. Shadow lost Maria, Sonic lost Longclaw. And it's about how one of them let the pain control their life and the other found a way to get past it and to find a loving family beyond that pain. And how running into each other changes one to understand the value of friendship and family and how that can serve his life better moving forward. Is that not nuanced enough? Now, I will say that this movie alters some of the nuance from its source material. I do believe that. I think it did it in a way that largely makes sense. But you're not even talking about what the movie's about. I mean, if you keep the plot off the table, of course it's not going to sound particularly nuanced.
I think content produced for kids should especially be high quality and should especially have artistic merit.
They gotta write like the Kids Bop version of Memento. Dude, as far as programming aimed at kids goes, this movie's totally fine. It's definitely in the upper echelon of what's out there. Which
is why I hated Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And why it is today, I must say, sadly, canceled.
Yeah, Matt, you did it. You did it. Single-handedly. Good job. You canceled Sonic 3. We're all proud.
Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access...
Oh, there it is! In the middle! Okay, that picture of him in the middle, if I am not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure I'm not, he showed up at the Democratic National Convention during the election cycle in that disguise, and, like, everybody knew who it was. Like, he was just immediately found. Which brings me to kind of what the bottom line is on Matt and his ilk. If you dig even moderately deep into the right-wing ilk and their history, Shapiro, Walsh, Johnson, all of these folks, you will find that they actually had aspirations for Hollywood. They wanted to break into it, but they couldn't cut it. They couldn't make it. And that's common. More people don't make it than do make it. And so they all branched off, went super duper right wing, and hate Hollywood. Every chance they get to slam it, they do. Now, you would think there'd be a little bit more know-how when it comes to the filmmaking prowess of some of these folks. I saw a video months and months ago of, I'm pretty sure it was Benny Johnson. He made a video about going to California and how, like, their car was robbed during a stay in Oakland or something. And man, when it comes to, like, filmmaking technique, it was so staged. The acting was bad. The staging was bad. The consistency throughout the video was horrific. And what do you know? Those are all things that Matt's talking about in this movie. Inconsistencies. I guess the far-right contrarian content machine knows it when they see it because they're pretty damn good at producing it. It's a damn shame that the outrage machine is as strong as it is. That people are happy being perpetually dissatisfied and perpetually angry and live their lives every day waiting for the other shoe to drop. If you're living your life in such a state of mind that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 can break you as a father, I don't believe you are living life well. But they couldn't cut it in Hollywood, so now they're mad, and they want everyone to know it. And they want everyone to be mad with them, and that's how they make their money, by keeping people angry. And I wonder how the Jesus these folks believe in would feel about using anger and perpetual dissatisfaction to cash their checks. That sounds like the kind of thing Jesus would have flipped the tables about. That sounds like taking God's name in vain. I had fun watching this review. Let's look at some of these comments. I wasn't paying attention to the movie, so why are you complaining about it? Now I understand why Gerald called humanity a failed experiment. He was on about you. Matt Walsh, thy don't have respect for their audience. All right, to be fair, there's some incorrect grammar here. I understand the sentiment, but I'm going to read it as is. Paramount delayed the first Sonic movie to change Sonic's dessing. I guess that's what that is. That's dessing. Because almost everyone, mostly the Sonic fans, hated the ugly dessing. Is that a word I'm not familiar with? So the deep theme of don't let your trauma define you and you're still responsible for your own actions went over your head. This is the wrong your, but we'll press along. Yeah, that's a pretty intense theme to throw in a kid's movie. Like I said before, I really miss the dislike button count. I think you can download an extension to bring it back. Anyone calling the Sonic movies children's movies is silly. They are family movies that anyone can enjoy. I agree with this. I did not articulate it. When you say a movie that both kids and adults can enjoy, that's a family movie. These are family movies. My mom's in her 60s, and she saw 1 and 2, and she liked them both. I'm 44 and can't wait for Sonic 4. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I can't wait either. It's going to be fun. I'm a Sonic fan, a father, and right-leaning. If the movie wasn't for you, that's fine, because there are things to criticize, but don't blame the movie for the fact you got several story beats wrong and you clearly weren't paying attention. It's really interesting now that you have to put your political leaning on the table to validate your opinion about Sonic the Hedgehog 3. It's a little goofy that that's the timeline we live in, but apparently that's the timeline we live in. This film feels like it could have been written by AI. Ah yes, bland, inoffensive AI film scripts, known for their inclusion of child death, suicidal villains, main character sacrifice, and nuanced themes about familial grief. Matt, as someone who's built a career on making reviews, I don't think reviewing is really the path for you. Might I suggest going back to what you're best at? Calling everything in existence woke/gay. Where's the woke? Is it in the room with us right now? I think Matt hates everything he isn't involved in. Ego crashing hard with this one. Sonic isn't a bad movie at all. I don't think Matt is jealous of Sonic 3, but I do think there are tinges of envy that are woven into his reviews of movies that are met with critical and financial success in that he wanted to be a part of that. And lashing out against the machine is easier than facing the idea that you could not fit into it. Because once upon a time, he wanted to be part of that machine. Oh, Matt Walsh. You're no Maria. Stick to politics, Matt. This was probably the worst review I've ever seen in my life. Criticizing without seeing the previous films, not acknowledging that it's a family film that targets both kids and longtime fans of Sonic, not even stating anything you did like about it, which I find impossible to believe there was nothing. Constantly insulting the fans and everyone that worked on the film, demanding for every kid's movie to be perfect, dismissing any humor in a family film because you didn't like it, not understanding that content for kids can have serious tones, yet also tell them in a way that's not as dark as it truly is. This is a good comment, because it articulates a lot of things very directly and succinctly. Sonic 3 is an outlier in the fact that it has a lot of people defending it, especially against Matt Walsh. Other movies, if you make a comment like this, people are immediately going to say things like, wow, you're defending this? I guess we know who likes to get pegged at night. My main man calls people he doesn't agree with snowflakes, and then he says that watching Sonic the Goddamn Hedgehog is worse than getting burned alive or getting hit by a speeding train. What a child, man. Hopefully there's fellow geeks here like me. This movie should definitely be celebrated as a win. This is one of the very few movies that listened to the fans and gave them what they wanted. It also tries, T-R-I-E-S, it also tries to stay close to the source material. Very, very rare. No complaints here. I loved Sonic 3. If Gerald saw this review, I'd understand why he'd want to destroy the entire planet. Matt, not a Sonic fan. Nobody who made the film actually cared about making a good film. And they have absolutely no respect for their audience. Sonic fans. This film is an excellent adaptation from one of our favorite storylines. Really makes us feel respected by the filmmakers. As someone who's right-winged, Sonic community, please cook this man. He's just yapping. This review for Sonic 3 basically embodies the saying, the ability to speak does not make you intelligent. There is actually a verse in the Bible, which Matt Walsh claims to read, that talks about how it's better to be perceived as a silent, wise person rather than a loud fool. This guy complains about people being snowflakes, and yet a quote-unquote kids movie broke him. Shaking my head. This is definitely a rage bait quote-unquote review for engagement, and you all fell for it. He knows the movie was loved by the vast majority of audiences, and that he'd get some clicks for saying the opposite, but he didn't have the effort to actually make any genuine critiques. Not unusual for Matt. Also, he trashed on The Dark Knight, so if that doesn't make him rage baiting any more obvious, then nothing will. No, it's not unusual for the entire strange, right-leaning, contrarian manosphere in which Matt Walsh resides. It's too dark and bleak. No crap. Play Sonic Adventure 2. Kids should be able to watch dark stuff, as it shows them not everything's sunshine and rainbows. Live and learn, Goofy. My wife's kids. Don't you mean our kids? Wait, does he actually say my wife's kids? 87% for critics and 96% audience on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, but those are woke. All the critics are woke. Rotten Tomatoes is woke. Matt criticizes the movie targeted at kids and families for having silly jokes and dance scenes, but then gets disgusted when it has more serious themes. What exactly do you want, Matt? I've followed Matt for a long time and enjoyed a lot of his content, but when it comes to his movie reviews, they are definitely not his specialty. He always has to have an unpopular opinion for clicks. Just look at his Star Wars, Toy Story, and Christmas movie reviews. Rage Bait 101. I reported this video for misinformation. Matt is 38. Matt is 38? Whew. Ah, damn. I mean, yeah. Wow, good job, Matt. You look great. I'm convinced Matt felt forced to go to this movie by his family, and instead of being open to it actually being good or fun, he went into it mad about it and ruined his own experience for himself. Probably sat there grumpy the entire time, determined to not enjoy it. Yeah, that's how he makes a living. He wakes up every day, determined to not enjoy anything. Because that's what pays the bills. Matt's comment sections are echo chambers until he starts reviewing movies. Matt Walsh is showing his age on this one. I did not think he was 38. I thought he was older. So he kind of was pretty close to the timeline where this game could have been a part of his life growing up, but apparently not. I'm not going to bother explaining the plot. Then why bother making a review? Considering Matt's opinions on anime, I'm not surprised Sonic 3 didn't sit well with him. Yeah, Matt Walsh's take on anime is confusing.
From my vantage point, anime is satanic. Now, I acknowledge that I have no argument to support that view. I have no, perhaps, reason or justification for it. It is rather, as the kids say, a vibe. Anime has a satanic vibe. That's all. Have I ever seen anime? Do I even know exactly what anime is? These questions aren't relevant.
Just like live action, anime has different genres within it. Sci-fi, drama, romance, action, fantasy. But for some reason, the fact that Japan drew it makes it satanic? Where does that even come from? Dude, my son of 6. Wow. Shadow made the ultimate sacrifice, Daddy. Just like someone else I know. Right, Daddy? I don't need to tell you who he was talking about. I would not be surprised if that comparison never entered his mind. Now, usually when you want to see the opposite of the popular opinion, you sort comments by newest. Yep, there it is. Right on time. I love watching Matt trigger all of you. Stay offended, you wimps. The more you let this man talk, the more he exposes his fragility. For anyone who wants the current like to dislike ratio, his likes are currently at 2.5K and the dislikes are 9.6K. Wow. Wow. Even the recent comments, which is usually where you flip and hear the other side of the echo chamber, is not with him on this one. This review honestly surprises me coming from you, considering that it is one of the few films we've gotten in the last few years that has not tried to include divisive woke content in it, and is something that you wouldn't need to worry about kids seeing, unlike a lot of Disney movies lately. I thought from you it would have gotten a glowing review for actually being wholesome and family-friendly. It's reviews like these that make it so filmmakers decide that if simple, wholesome, family-friendly isn't enough, then they may as well include all the woke garbage. This movie needs to be praised so we can get more movies that get closer to the high-quality artistic merit you are talking about. The two mainline definitions of woke are left-leaning. The other definition is being aware of social issues. Being aware, awake, woke. This is that first definition. So even the people that adopt that first definition of the term woke are looking at Matt's review and being like, what the f*** are you talking about? Is it your job to be miserable? If you can't go to the movies and enjoy a movie about friendship, family, and not letting your trauma define you, and also entirely miss all of those themes, then you are the problem, man. You are single-handedly ruining your children's childhoods by being so miserable and not letting them enjoy these fun movies for what they are. Fun. We don't know how he acted around his kids. He could have placated them and been like, yeah, I had a fun time, it was good, and then maybe just talked with his wife behind closed doors and been like, that was really bad. But then he goes and puts this online, so his kids are obviously going to see this and know that their father had a miserable time spending time with them. So yeah, that probably doesn't do him any favors. So you know, almost everyone in my entire family is so Catholic that we speak Latin. I am also so right-leaning that I voted for Trump with the express purpose of making Christianity the dominant religion in America. Also, my father, who hates video games, got me Sonic Adventure 2, the game that this movie is based off of, when I was 12 in 2005. Your take on this movie is bad, and you should feel bad. This sounds like a person I would not get along with at all. But when it comes to Sonic Adventure 2, sounds like we're good. I mean, we're talking about a people with such an immense deep hatred for the Hollywood that they could not assimilate into, that they have broken off to try to make their own streaming service called Bentkey, which is a play at dissing Disney, if you're not aware, and have tried to come together to make their own anti-woke Snow White, starring one of their personalities, Brett Cooper, who has recently kind of just disappeared from the Daily Wire for unknown reasons. Wonder what that story is. They want to play on the playground. The movie couldn't even get through post-production without losing its star from the entire production company. So maybe film production is not their forte. I mean, I get that people make mistakes in the filmmaking community. I am in the filmmaking community. I'm not a Hollywood bigwig, and I don't know if Hollywood's ever going to be my final destination. Cool if it is, cool if it ain't. I know some of the things I want to do, and I know some of the things I want to do. But just because I am not a part of that community in Los Angeles doesn't mean I hate it. As a matter of fact, I love it. It is composed of beautiful, brilliant, weak, strong, broken, composed people. And it's a community I'm very passionate about, because above all of that garbage, my community are storytellers. And Matt's community, the Daily Wire, that whole branch, they are not passionate about the people in the community. They just wanted to play on the playground. I don't want to spend any more time on this because time is non-refundable and I got stuff I gotta do. That's all I got.